The Gaza Health Ministry reports that since October the 7th, more than 42,334 Palestinians have been killed, including nearly 16,500 children. Updated figures also show that over 96,359 people have been injured in Gaza alone, with more than 10,000 missing under the rubble. Meanwhile, US officials are claiming that Iran is preparing to launch ballistic missiles at Israel. However, the Israeli army says it has not detected any aerial threat as yet.
לפני זמן קצר, שותפינו בארצות הברית עדכנו אותנו כי הם מזהים היערכות של איראן לירי טילים לעבר מדינת ישראל בזמן הקרוב. בשלב זה, אנחנו לא מזהים איום אווירי ששוגר מאיראן. אני רוצה לחזור על זה עוד פעם. אנחנו עדיין לא מזהים איום אווירי ששוגר מאיראן בשלב זה.
Fears that Israel plans to lay waste to Lebanon in the way that it has in Gaza have seen over 1 million flee the south of the country. The refugees fled north as Israeli troops crossed Lebanon's southern border. Israel described the invasion as a limited operation in language reminiscent of Vladimir Putin's expression special military operation to describe the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
If the state of Lebanon and the world can't push Hezbollah away from our border, we have no choice but to do it ourselves. I want to make it clear. Our war is with Hezbollah, not with the people of Lebanon. We do not want to harm Lebanese civilians, and we're taking measures to prevent that.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ignored pleas to de-escalate from the UN, the UK, and the US. The far-right government in Israel seems determined to try and defeat all opposition to its attack on Gaza. It is now fighting and/or bombing in Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen. It is unclear what the full Israeli war aims are now. Some Israeli ministers talk of dealing a decisive blow to what they call the Ring of Fire, the hostile states that border Israel. In this scenario, Israel would control all the land from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean, and the Palestinians would be second-class subjects or forced into exile, and Israel's opponents would be defeated. This would open the road to resuming the normalization process with the Arab dictatorships previously embodied in the Abraham Accords, which were rendered unworkable by the Israeli attack on Gaza. But that seeking that outcome is fraught with dangers for Israel. It has not defeated Hamas in Gaza, has not pacified the West Bank, and has yet to show that it can win a prolonged military engagement in southern Lebanon. It was precisely its inability to defeat Hezbollah which forced its withdrawal from the same area in 2006. Another unknown quantity is the response of Iran. The regime's current reformist leadership are attempting to negotiate with the US to lift the sanctions imposed on it after Donald Trump broke off relations with Iran. So while Iran has supported its allies in the region, it has been reluctant to respond to Israeli provocations, including the assassination of Hamas's leader while he was in Tehran. Today, the fate of the region depends on how completely Israel intends to prosecute a regional war, how much resistance they meet in southern Lebanon, and the reaction of the Iranian state.
As nearly a year of war continues to ravage Gaza, its 2.4 million residents, particularly children, find themselves at the heart of a deepening humanitarian tragedy. With the conflict showing no signs of ending, Gaza's children remain the most vulnerable, facing a life defined by instability and deprivation. A recent mission to Gaza revealed just how grim the situation has become for these young lives, with education, safety, and basic needs now out of reach for most. For nearly a year, schools in Gaza have remained closed, leaving over 625,000 children without education and play, essential aspects of childhood.
So you see children who are not allowed to have the life of a normal children. No education, no play, no joy actually. So you really see those children in the streets, and it's very concerning for their future. When we were, especially in the north, we went to the Kamal Adwan Hospital and we met with Faha. So she's a very tiny 10-month-old baby who's suffering from malnutrition and respiratory infection. And she was really a striking reminder how the children in the Gaza Strip, especially in the north, do not have access to enough food, but also are living in very dramatic hygiene and sanitation conditions. Without an immediate medical evacuation, they will not make it. That is absolutely for sure. They need to be treated outside of the Gaza Strip because nowhere in the Gaza Strip it's possible to actually take care of them properly. Wherever you look, you have tents on that piece of sand, and right in the middle what we have been establishing is large tents where children from the community can come every day to get basic reading, writing and simple mathematics. And this is very important because more than 625,000 children didn't get access to school. Even more important, I would say, is the provision of mental health and psychosocial support. Most of the children that I have met in those temporary learning spaces, in those tents, are children who have been displaced, who have seen family members being killed, who have seen bombings, strikes, who have lived in fear. So it is absolutely critical that we provide recreational activity and mental health support to help them to cope with their trauma.
While all eyes are focused on Israel's attack on Gaza and on Lebanon, the mainstream media seems to have turned a blind eye to Israel's other war on Syria. Israel bombed the Syrian capital last night, but it's certainly not the first time that Israel has targeted Syria. Only a few days earlier, there was what the Daily Express called a fresh blitz on the port city of Tartus. Earlier in September, Israel launched deadly attacks on several military sites, killing at least 16 people. Back in April, Israel bombed the Iranian consulate in Damascus, killing senior military commanders. Indeed, since 2011, Israel has used the chaos created by Western-backed attempts to overthrow Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to attack Syria regularly, often from Syrian territory that Israel occupies on the Golan Heights. Since 2017, bombs have fallen on Syria on an almost weekly basis as Israel sought to target the Iranian and Hezbollah presence in Syria. Israel has ramped up its attacks since the start of the war on Gaza, freely targeting Iran and its ally Hezbollah in Syria, especially around the capital Damascus. A strike in December 2023 killed Razi Mousavi, a top Iranian commander in Syria. Last spring, a strike on Syria's northern province of Aleppo killed at least 40 people, most of them soldiers. These strikes appeared to hit a weapons depot, resulting in a series of explosions that also killed 6 Hezbollah fighters. If Syrian air defences had not been able to shoot down a number of Israeli missiles, the death toll would be greater. Iran has often condemned these attacks, but only rarely directly responded to Israeli aggression on Syrian territory.
The third day of the Conservative Party conference kicks off as the party finds itself in a political slump, following its worst electoral defeat since its founding in 1834, and struggling to reconcile its past with the need for a modern, progressive vision. The 4 Tory leadership contenders are Kemi Badenoch, Tom Tugendhat, Robert Jenrick, and James Cleverly. Kemi Badenoch's speech was astonishing as she praised the Lebanon pager attacks as amazing, praising Israel for its military actions, as reported by The Times. Meanwhile, Robert Jenrick, speaking at a Conservatives Friends of Israel event, wore a hoodie reading "Hamas are terrorists" and proposed that the Star of David be displayed at every UK entry point to signify the country's solidarity with Israel. All 4 leadership candidates are committed to tax cuts and reducing the size of government, but polling shows this is out of step with public sentiment. Most voters, still reeling from the pandemic and the cost of living crisis, are not clamouring for a smaller state and instead are looking for government support. Only 8% of voters aged 18 to 29 supported the Tories in the last election, and just 12% of those in their 30s. With no fresh solutions on offer, the Conservative Party risks becoming irrelevant to much of the electorate, leaving the country searching for leaders with ideas, courage, and vision to address the challenges of today.
Canterbury MP Rosie Duffield has resigned the Labour whip, accusing Sir Keir Starmer of leading a government driven by cruel and unnecessary policies. In her resignation letter published by the Sunday Times, Duffield criticised Starmer for maintaining the Conservative introduced two-child benefit cap and means testing the winter fuel payment. She also accused him of hypocrisy for accepting luxury gifts while supporting policies that keep children in poverty. Duffield expressed frustration over Starmer's lack of engagement with backbench MPs and condemned his leadership style, accusing him of tarnishing the Labour Party. She said the government's sleaze, nepotism and avarice had left her ashamed.
People with so much more money than the average person spending somebody's yearly salary on their own clothes without feeling that they have to apologise or explain. I just feel like I'm not getting anywhere with trying to get that from my leader.
Tensions between Duffield and Labour leadership have been ongoing, particularly over her traditional stance on transgender rights. Despite her departure from the party, she affirmed that she would continue as an independent MP, upholding her core Labour values. This resignation follows the suspension of 7 Labour MPs who voted to abolish the two-child benefit cap, increasing the number of independent MPs to 14. Although Duffield did not participate in the votes on the King's Speech or a Conservative motion on the winter fuel payment, she was critical of Starmer's promotion of individuals lacking political experience, including Hamish Falconer, son of Lord Falconer, and Liam Conlon, son of No. 10 Chief of Staff Sue Gray. Labour backbenchers expressed relief at her departure, with one MP describing Duffield as poisonous and glad to see her go.
A couple were caught running a trafficking scheme that managed 6 slaves working at a McDonald's restaurant. Ernest Drivenek, 46, and Veronika Bubensikova, 46, began exploiting the men who were either homeless, unemployed, or suffered with addiction issues in the Czech Republic in 2015. The victims were promised a better life in the UK, but the couple took control of their money while they worked at a McDonald's restaurant. The trafficked men who couldn't speak English were helped by Drivenek and Bubensikova to get jobs at McDonald's with modern slavery gang members, filing out forms on their behalf and even acting as translators in interviews. All of their wages were paid into either bank accounts belonging to the couple or those that they had control over. The victims were forced to work at the McDonald's branch in Caxton, Cambridgeshire, while staying in overcrowded properties, including the couple's home in Upper Camborne. But the couple's illegal scheme came to an end after the police received information that workers at the restaurant were being exploited in October 2019. On Thursday, the 7th of December, Drivenek was jailed for 12.5 years and Bubensikova of Upper Camborne for 10.5 years, a McDonald's spokesperson told The Independent. The victims in these cases were cruelly exploited by the criminal perpetrators of these shocking offences. McDonald's commends the bravery the victims showed during the legal proceedings in bringing the criminals to justice.
In a significant moment for Indian-administered Kashmir, the region is in the final stages of its first local government elections since its autonomy was revoked by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government in 2019. Over 3.9 million residents are casting their votes in a historic election with heightened security and a sense of both hope and unease as results are expected to be announced on the 8th of October. The election marks the first since Kashmir's semi-autonomous status was abruptly stripped, dividing the former state into 2 centrally governed territories. This move, seen by many as an erosion of the region's unique identity, has sparked ongoing tensions and placed the region directly under New Delhi's control. While the changes resonated positively in other parts of India, particularly among Modi supporters, in Kashmir they were largely viewed as an affront to its autonomy and a trigger for further unrest. Despite the tension, voter turnout has been relatively strong, with around 55% of voters participating in the first 2 phases. In the Muslim-majority Kashmir Valley, distrust of New Delhi runs deep. Modi's BJP holds little influence there and faces a challenging political landscape. While the BJP has a strong foothold in Hindu-majority Jammu, where the 2019 changes have been welcomed, its influence wanes dramatically in the valley, where separatist sentiments and demands for either independence or unity with Pakistan remain strong.
Firstly, we are going to vote for restore of statehood. It's our first demand, our voters' demand. Firstly, we are request to the government of India to restore our statehood with dignity and honor. So, हमारा हक है क्योंकि ये स्टेट थी स्पेशल स्टेट, इसका था 370-35A था, लेकिन चूंकि पार्लियामेंट ने उसको अबॉलिश किया, अब पार्लियामेंट ही उसको, हम रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे पार्लियामेंट से इसका वो स्टेटस वापस किया जाए.
बस फिलहाल से हम जिस चीज़ हम एमरजेंसी वीकन स्टेट रोड से एमरजेंसी युस अस छीनित न्यू यह वापस यून अत कर गवर्नमेंट सोजा तौर बन तेल हेकन हम वापस दित.
In the heart of Spain's Castilla-La Mancha region, Miguel Ángel García stands among rows of pistachio trees that have become the lifeblood of his 26-hectare farm. Like his father and grandfather before him, García once harvested grapes and grains, but the increasingly harsh droughts forced him to pivot to a crop better suited for Spain's evolving climate. Pistachios, a hardy nut native to the Middle East, have proven resilient to the face of Spain's hotter, drier summers. García first planted pistachio trees in 2007, and today he reaps the benefits, harvesting up to 20 tons annually.
Si tú te metes en el mundo del pistacho pensando en hacerte rico, normalmente en la agricultura solo se hace rico el que ya ha llegado rico. Pero no, trabajando en la agricultura no es difícil hacerse rico. Es un negocio en el que te puede dar un buen rendimiento si tienes una explotación buena, pero cuando se vea aquí el potencial que tiene y se asuma que son 7 años lo que hay que estar sin coger ingresos, en La Mancha es el futuro.
Spain has seen a dramatic rise in pistachio cultivation, with land dedicated to the crop growing nearly 5-fold since 2017. Today, the country boasts 79,000 hectares of pistachio orchards, positioning it as the largest pistachio producer in Europe and 4th globally, trailing behind the United States, Iran and Turkey. The boom is particularly prominent in regions like Castilla-La Mancha and other areas grappling with water shortages. Experts like Mario González Mojino, an agricultural engineer, attribute the crop's success to its natural adaptation to desert climates.
De la misma, entonces muchos optan por el cultivo de pistacho porque es un cultivo que requiere mucha menos mano de obra, está más mecanizado y es un cultivo que de por sí es rentable. Quizá, pero sí que es cierto que ante el escenario actual de aumento de temperaturas y demás, si un cultivo es resistente es el pistacho, lógicamente, porque sus condiciones de partida están adaptadas a climas desérticos o semidesérticos, con lo cual ante aumento de temperatura y bajada de precipitaciones es un cultivo que frente a otros resiste mucho mejor.
Spain's pistachio output is expected to rise as many newly planted orchards have yet to reach full maturity, a process that takes at least 7 years. Pistachios are in high demand across Europe, with 90% of Spain's production exported to countries like France and Germany. While concerns of overproduction loom, those in the industry remain optimistic, however. Spain still imports most of its pistachios, mainly from the US, suggesting ample room for growth, and for Spain's farmers, the long-term payoff looks promising.
It's with sadness to announce the death of our brave sister and Islam Channel correspondent Wafa Al-Udaini. Wafa was killed alongside her husband, Mu'ayr Al-Udaini, and their 2 children in an overnight attack as Israeli forces targeted their home in Deir al-Balah in the central Gaza Strip. The Gaza-based journalist worked with international news outlets and was mourned by many fellow journalists who praised her dedication to bringing the stories of Palestinians to the world. Islam Channel had the privilege of hosting Wafa in multiple occasions, where she bravely offered valuable insights from Gaza since the beginning of the war.
So this is Wafa Al-Adaini reporting to you to Islam Channel from the besieged Gaza Strip, in particular in Shuhada Al-Aqsa Hospital, located in Deir al-Balah, in particular in the middle area. It is considered the main hospital in the whole area, and we are going to show you how the health personnel are dealing and coping under this aggression, under this lack of medicine, shortage of fuel, and everything happening here in the besieged Gaza Strip. So as you can see here, since day one of the Israeli aggression on the besieged Gaza Strip, like the health personnel here in Shuhada Al-Aqsa Hospital here, located in Deir al-Balah, erected these tents in order to deal with the sheer number of wounded people from the Israeli airstrikes across the Gaza Strip. Just I want to show you how the paramedics, how they use to clean the wounds of the wounded people. What they are using instead, they are using the chlor as you see here, and they mix it with polluted water or boiled water in order to clean the wounds for the wounded people.
With the murder of Wafa, the number of journalists killed since the beginning of the ongoing Israeli genocide in Gaza has risen to 174. Everyone at Islam Channel sends their thoughts and prayers with Wafa's families and all victims of the ongoing war.